Hey everyone, I'm Jeanette Mulvey, the editor-in-chief of Co. by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to Co's Roadmap for Rebuilding, our series aimed at helping you recover and grow your business. Thank you so much for joining us today. So today we're talking about building a business for future growth. We'll discuss how to connect with your customers through ever-evolving marketing platforms, and then focus on building a financial plan that will withstand the test of time. So as we go along, you can answer our poll questions and ask the speakers questions of your own by entering them into the right side of your screen. Now, before we get started, I want to thank our event sponsor, our event partner, Spectrum Reach, along with our supporting sponsors, ADP, FedEx, MetLife, Square, and Staples Connect. We appreciate your partnership in this series. So we'll start today's discussion with a conversation on marketing to modern customers. I want to welcome our panelists, Jordan Beilin, who is West Division Director of Advanced Advertising Sales from Spectrum Reach. He's here to share his advice with you. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon.
Hi.
Good morning from the West
And
Coast.
we, oh, and we have two small business owners here to share their perspectives. Please welcome Omayya Atout, co-founder and CEO of Songlorious, which is a really interesting company that I can't wait for him to tell you about, and Barbara Karasek, CEO and co-owner of Paradise Advertising and Marketing. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Jordan, I am going to start with a few questions for you. So, from the time a business launches, the owners have a clear vision of what makes that business different from its competitors, but being able to market that message is actually probably a lot more difficult than most people think. So what are like the first steps a business should take when they're trying to create a marketing message that really conveys who they are and how they're different from the competition?
Well, you're definitely right on track, which is it's super critical for the message to really be authentic. One of the things we see now more than ever with the modern customer is that people want to understand the purpose behind the brand. So brands really need to figure out what is their long-term message. How do they stand on different issues, and then use that in their messaging that comes off in an authentic and sincere way, and also plan messaging for the long term. You really want to make a message that can withstand. It's not just something that's a flash in the pan, but really authentic, sincere messaging that really addresses some of today's issues is super important to the modern customer.
And when we talk about messaging, I mean, is that just about your brand, or is that beyond just what your brand stands for? I mean, are we talking about how you communicate that beyond just the branding?
Yeah, you want to think about what your brand stands for, and then you want to think about what are those your critical points that resonate with the prospective customer. What will make them a customer? And then the way you connect with them is usually through stories. Humans were hardwired for story. We love stories. So any type of like narrative example about how people use the brand, how your employees have found success. Employee testimonials is super powerful. And then really any type of like customer way to use it, but use a story and a narrative, and then there's a great way to connect beyond just like a particular feature or benefit.
Yeah. So, okay. So once you've developed that brand and the message that amplifies the brand, you have to figure out how you're going to share that messaging with people. There's obviously so many different options, so many different channels. So, how do you, as an expert on this topic, think about what the steps are in that process in terms of how do you think, as a business owner, where are the most appropriate channels for distributing, getting this message out?
Yeah, and I feel for business owners, there's so many different places to begin media. Many different channels. We've seen, just the trajectory of people consuming across many different devices. But a simpler way to kind of look at it, a framework we like to use, is kind of the framework we call find, reach, measure. So finding out first who your customers are. That's really the who and the why. Why are they using your service? Who are they? And then for the reach, it's kind of where they are, leveraging your customer database to see where your customers are geographically, and engaging your customers. I think it's great to continue to have an ongoing dialogue with your customers, understand where they are, what they're watching, what's important to them. And then on the measure side, Really it's about understanding, what is the impacts to your database. And also, we focus a lot on what is your kind of digital presence analytics that might be, your website, what's going on with your web traffic, what's going on with your social presence, and start to monitor all these things. I will say a lot of business owners get caught up in the measure section. And I think it's certainly when you're beginning, there's a tendency to maybe put too much weight on any one tactic. And I think it's really good to, at the beginning, certainly look at the trends and some of the overall impacts, because the industry is still really evolving to get a full 60 view of what's happening. But if you focus on finding, reaching, and measuring your customer, and really engage with them, I think it's an easier way to kind of approach what is really complex, with many options. And then you learn as you go along. You'll find things that work.
Yeah, I love that find, reach, measure. I feel like that's easy to remember and really simplifies the process in a way that a business really of any size could adapt for them. So, you could spend millions on marketing, or you could spend hundreds on marketing, and our audience is probably made up of companies that have both kinds of budgets. So, if you are a business with limited marketing budgets, how what are some strategies for being able to really get the most bang for your buck in terms of marketing when you're working with a smaller budget?
Yeah, I think everybody's budget is always a challenge, right? But there are certainly some ways that you can make a small budget look big, and go a lot further. I think one of the tricks that we employ a lot, and I can't recommend it enough for any business owner, large or small, is to take your customer database and heat map your customers. I feel like there's something magical when you can see where the customers are. You can see, concentrations by zip code is the way we do it. So we'll find that maybe, you would think by looking at a spreadsheet you're in all these different areas, but when you really map it, you can see it visually with the concentration. There's really a handful of key zip codes, and then if you're able to narrow your geography, then that kind of gives you an idea of how much you need to dial up certain things like targeting. But if you really narrow your message, and then your geography, and then you use a really compelling, authentic message, that will make your brand go much further. But I really challenge you to take a look, use that customer database, heat map it, whether it's in Excel or some other tool, with some support from partners like Spectrum Reach. But you will find that you probably have a couple key areas, and it's better to kind of begin by leaning into your strengths than really try to spread yourself too thin and tackle like the entire country.
That's good advice. Now, marketing is great, but you need marketing to turn into sales, or it hasn't really done its job. So, can you just talk about that process and how you think about what the kind of key steps are in transforming your marketing efforts into actual, sales?
Yeah, I think marketing is a long term business. I mean, it's really about making an investment. That's why we talk about the messaging, being authentic, sincere, and not really tied to just one particular time. But we used to look at marketing as a funnel where you started awareness, and then all of a sudden you go through these consideration process, and you get down to the purchase, and you're out. But really, today we look at marketing really much more as a journey, and really circular, where you never really leave the funnel. So even if you have a sale with somebody, they're going to either become an advocate or a detractor. So you really want to just make sure that all steps of the sales, because as you message the right people with more frequency, you are going to get sales. And then it's just a matter of keeping those customers engaged, using them for referrals, and advocates through your social presence. And then I can't stress enough, really, when turning things into sales, uh, really monitoring or managing your digital presence in the sense of, where do people go to convert. So a thing I like to recommend to a lot of business owners is really make sure that your map listings are updated. If people are searching for you, are your correct hours listed? Is the right location? Do you have multiple locations? Cleaning up some of those, mapping listings, and like your digital presence will really help make it like a frictionless conversion. Because we'll see you do the marketing, and then if they can't find the right place to go, it's super critical. But if you stay consistent, you're talking to your customers, you're speaking about things that make sense, you're using narrative messaging, And then you're looking at your analytics, and then not giving up on a customer, looking at the lifetime value, you'll really start to be able to kind of work that whole journey instead of it just being a funnel approach.
Well, I'm glad we had this conversation because I've been still talking about the sales funnel and now I feel kind of foolish. So I'm going to switch to the sales journey. Thanks,
Journey.
Jordan.
We'll come up with a new name for it at some point, right?
Yes, let's work on
Thanks
it.
for having us.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to bring you back in during the audience Q&A, but right now I'm going to jump to Omayya, who, along with his wife, started a company in 2020 during the pandemic called Songlorious. So hi, Omayya, tell us about what Songlorious does, because it's pretty cool, and then tell us how you guys figured out what the right messaging was to explain it to people, because it's kind of a new concept.
Hey, thanks for having me. And so Songlorious basically is a website that anyone can go on. They type in some information, choose a genre, and one of our artists will create a song that's personalized to them. So it's studio quality, and it just basically tells your story. So, there's a lot of music out there, and especially nowadays, very saturated. And people want to hear songs that's about their life. So it's something we have fun with. So when it comes to finding the messaging to target our customers with, really, in my experience in the last year, what we've been doing, it's really we set forth kind of a hypothesis at the beginning, like what messaging is going to work and who are our customers, because the mistake a lot of people make, and we've made before, is we think we know who our customers are, and we put that hypothesis out there. We put messaging with different types of different creatives and different copies, and then that's why when the customer will find you. So I think finding the message that way is the best way. It's kind of like an evolution. You eliminate the bad messaging that doesn't work with people, and the customers will find you through that.
And did you have any surprises between who you thought your customer was going to be and who your customer ended up being?
Yeah, I mean, when we went in there with the hypothesis, honestly, we are, specific to us, we were thinking, hey, we'll make funny songs. People will want to have funny songs made for their friends and stuff like that. And I'm sure those customers are out there, and we've had some. But really, what they started telling us is that they wanted more heartfelt love songs, and that's what majority of our customers are looking for: love songs for their family members or their spouses. And so it was a big difference in what I thought, because I was applying my own. I would want a funny song. So
Right,
it's
right.
the beauty of
That's
testing
great.
it and finding the right. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Thank you. So, Barbara, your company works with travel destinations on their rating. So, first of all, just tell us a little bit more about what you do, and then just as you're working with them and helping them find new audiences, how do you do that?
Sure. So we have a full service advertising agency, and the majority of our clients are in the travel, tourism, destination marketing, hotel, resort space. So, now more than ever, finding the right customers to travel or to visit destinations and hotel properties and restaurants and retail on vacations is very important now more than ever. We always consult with our clients to say, finding the new customers and visitors is fantastic, but let's not forget about your repeat visitors, people that are already familiar with your product or your brand or your destination for our clients. So if you have a business, focus on people that are familiar with you. Retaining a customer is a lot more cost effective than trying to find a net new one. But by and large, like Jordan said, you have this long journey of the customer. And it's more like a popcorn machine right now with all of the, attention to so many different brands in front of you every day. But, attracting the right customer at the right time in their journey of purchase. We are in the business of, all of us, any business is in the business of moving humans to get to say yes. We are moving humans to the yes. And doing that is now more than ever for recovery, and the sustainable parts of your business is the most important thing you can do, is just never keeping your eye off of your customer and who they are and what they want.
And you, as a business owner, have to take your own advice and do that, right, to attract new customers to yourself. So you're really here able to talk about both the advice that you're giving to your business clients, but also the advice that you're putting into practice yourself. Omayya, you started as a brand new company. So if you were giving advice to someone else who is brand new, startup with a limited budget, what's your best advice for them in terms of how to start marketing inexpensively?
Yeah, so that's a good question for me because it relates to us. We started with basically zero budget. It wasn't zero budget; it was a small budget. But my advice to anybody, because we've seen success this way, is to start off small, and I think this works for a lot of people. If you start off small, it's first of all you get to test and find your audience, but at the same time you can find that sweet spot where you start to get return on investment. Because for someone like us with a small budget, if we didn't find that return on investment with our low budget, we wouldn't be able to continue operating as long as we have. So it's starting small and testing before you get to that point where you can up the budget, with regards to whatever your revenue is.
Yeah. Thank you. Barbara, your company is not new, but you are expanding into new geographic areas. So can you tell us either what you're doing in terms of your marketing strategy as you expand and reach out to a new customer base, or if you want, the advice you're giving to your clients? But either way, if you're an established business, but you're trying to attract new clients, whether that's regionally in different locations or just because you're offering a new service, just what's your general advice on marketing in that situation?
Sure. Yes, we're looking to expand our company, as you mentioned. It all starts with a plan, right? You build out the blueprint. You don't build a house without a blueprint. We have a business plan for growth by organic growth and growth by acquisition. So we put together an annual plan of what markets geographically we want to hit, what industries or verticals that we want to hit, and we take, like you said, we have to take our own advice of marketing ourselves, and we do that with a lot of data, a lot of research. And the best way for us in our sales funnel, if you will, is attracting new clients, referrals, word of mouth, and content marketing and being thought leadership. We don't want to sell. Like Jordan said and others have said, we like to tell the story. We're telling about the ways that we can help businesses grow their own business or brand. And in doing so, we'll continue to grow ours and our people.
Thanks. Omayya, one more question for you, and then we're going to go to the audience poll. One component of your business, as I understand it, that we didn't explain is that part of the reason you launched this during the pandemic is because you were trying to create job opportunities for people in the music industry, maybe performers or people who weren't working public, out in person in the pandemic. So assuming that's accurate, now that people are going back to work, how is your business model changing? Are you expanding into new markets? Like, how are things changing for you as your sort of workforce essentially is going back to their day jobs?
Yeah, so we did start in hopes to help musicians and also help ourselves. We're also musicians, my wife and I. So when we started this, we were doing songs ourselves, and we were hoping to bring musicians on. And now we have, over 120 musicians. And for the majority of them, it is a side gig, and for a lot of them, it's their main source of income. So them going back to their jobs, a lot of them have already returned to work, and we haven't seen a shift in how much work they want to take on. We allow our artists to take on as many projects as they want, as many orders as they want, and it doesn't seem to have decreased. I mean, people are they're getting to do their hobby and make money off of it on the side. They make time for it, and it doesn't seem to have changed much.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. So we're going to do a poll now, and then we'll go to the Q&A, so you can keep typing your questions in the screen on the right. So the poll is, in 1 or 2 words, describe how you want to make new customers feel about your business through your marketing efforts. So we will positive, happy, trustworthy, confidence, trust. There's a theme there. Integrity. I think a lot of this seems to really be around that you're a trustworthy business, which is an interesting thing because that actually seems to me like one of the most difficult things to convey via marketing. It's easier to convey who you are, what your story is, what you sell, what services you provide, but how do you convey confidence and trust in marketing? So I think that's something we as the panelists can keep in mind as we move this conversation forward. Okay, audience, we'll do another poll later, but thank you for voting in that one. So let's go to the Q&A. And Barbara, I'm going to come to you first because you do work with destinations. And they may be in this situation. So it says, how do you execute a plan to take a local small business to a national level through website and social media?
Well, that's a great question. So with destinations, consumers now more than ever, they're looking for those micro stories, those micro moments. And we work really, really hard at finding those hidden gems in destinations to be part of that narrative, to be part of that story, that we are able to leverage all stakeholders within the community far and wide for destinations to have that spotlight on them. Social media, maybe even within our national advertising campaigns, content marketing, parts of email blasts, parts of other types of thought leadership, making sure that the frontline workers of the hospitality industry and the residential communities that serve our tourism are being part of the spotlight. And that is, it's a two-way street. We have to engage those local businesses and also encourage not just the tourists to visit them, but also the locals as well. So we do a lot of local marketing campaign to get people out, especially during the pandemic. Shop local, dine out, eat local, get your to-go orders, support your local businesses to keep them thriving and healthy and flourishing. And now having the tourism impact as well to visit those retailers or partners within those destinations. So we work really, really hard to make sure that all businesses have a share of the spotlight.
Yeah, thank you. Jordan, this person says, how should business owners analyze future trends to make sure marketing campaigns resonate for a long time?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I love to think about the future. I would kind of break it into two parts. One is your message, and one is the media. With your message, you really want to again go back to being sincere, authentic. Focusing on what's really important, and that will have a lasting effect and prepare you for the future. When it comes to media, I would caution into planning your media too much in the future. There's so much to focus on now before worrying about some of these macro trends, especially as a small business owner, medium-sized business owner, where you have to really use your budget wisely. It's great to test, and I love that you should be doing testing things, but there'll be some macro trends. Like, it's just going to get more complicated because there will be more devices and places that people will go. But I would caution against really planning so far in the future. If your message is authentic and sincere, it will future-proof you for that, and then you'll be able to adjust your media as new opportunities arise.
Thank you. Omayya, this person asked, I think this is a good one for you, because you really, I think, have to educate people about what your business is. And then after they have a song created, in order to keep them as a return customer, you need to maintain a relationship with them. So how often should you email or just connect with your customer in any way regularly?
Yeah, so I mean, coming into a business new, I did a lot of research on this and trying to find what's the right amount to email someone, a customer, without getting on their nerves where they're like, this is spam now. We found the sweet spot for us has been about once a week, usually on Monday. And it's just kind of like we tell them a little story of a customer we had and a song they had made and a little story about their lives, just like Jordan was saying, with telling a narrative, having a narrative, and they like those micro stories. and just describing what our product has done for this person, and also when it comes to retargeting. But once a week, I've found has been a kind of a sweet spot for us.
And Omayya, what is the most effective form of marketing for you? Is it social media or is it your email marketing?
I would say it's definitely social media. Social media is just huge right now when it comes to marketing, and you can really hone in on your target audience that way. The thing with email marketing is that the return on the investment there is very high, because you've acquired you've acquired these emails from people who are interested. So when you email them, you're targeting exactly who you want. So the return on the investment is much better. But to find new customers, social media, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Barbara, same question for you, but if you could answer it in two ways. For your clients, what do you generally find is the best marketing tool for them? And then for your business, which is a B2B business, so you're attracting a different kind of customer, what is the best marketing tool for you?
Sure. Well, it depends on the client, obviously, but for us, it's an integrated approach, not just having one type of marketing, right? So a lot of our clients are, they're in OTT platforms, they're in obviously paid search, paid social. So you have the 4 buckets of content, right? For advertising and marketing, you have earned media, which is your public relations, owned channels, which is your own website, strong social presence, channels that you control, like the emails that Omayya was talking about, and then the paid advertising, and then the leveraged, so your partners. And for our clients who are the most successful, leverage all 4 of those buckets effectively, and then continuously look at the data and the results. And you either pivot and change things up, purge, which is if something's not working, quickly abort that mission and change to something that's working, or proceed forward with things that are going well. And as a business for our agency, we have found, again, referrals and thought leadership, just being out there in the marketplace, talking about trends and insights and little nuggets that make us unique, and the people that are doing the work on our team, really good category leaders and experts in their own craft and field.
Great. Thank you. So, Jordan, we are going to wrap it up and I'm going to say goodbye, but I'm also going to break a cardinal rule of event hosting. I never do this. I'm going to get fired. But you guys from Spectrum, you are here, to talk about marketing, but you guys actually have a very interesting tool that I want to make sure small businesses know about. We're linking to it on our landing page, and I wouldn't promote it except that I think it's really, really useful and interesting. So can you just give so that I really don't actually get fired, can you give just the 5-second version of what this tool allows small businesses to do? Because I think it's a great opportunity and I want them to know about it.
Yeah, we have several different tools. The one that I believe you're referencing is the ad portal tool, which allows small businesses owners to get on the website and really start to explore media planning. There's been a lot of innovation over the last couple of years, really in the last 2 years, around making it easier to find your audience. And then, when you have a limited budget, that's the way to do it. And then to at least start kind of almost in a self-service approach like you would see in some other types of areas. And then, it's a great place to kind of entry level start and explore your target, because, one of the benefits of a media company is that we work across many, many different clients, and you can start to see, because I saw a question come in about if you don't have the data, like if your product or service is used somewhere else, then you may not have that exposure to the actual end result. It's great to have the learnings of a collective, thousands of clients that even a small business can leverage right on that website. So I appreciate the plug.
I know. Well, maybe you'll employ me later when I get fired. I'm just kidding. That's not really gonna happen. But I do think it's important. I wanted people to know it exists. So thank you, Jordan. It was great to have you. Omayya and Barbara are going to stay with us for our next discussion. So bye, Jordan.
See ya.
Thanks. So the next part of our conversation is going to be building a financial plan that you can carry your company and withstand the test of time. So our next expert is Keila Hill-Trawick, who is founder and principal of Little Fish Accounting. Keila works on developing realistic financial plans and strategizes with business owners every day on how to do exactly this thing. So she is here to share her advice with you. So hi, Keila.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So business owners, as they're tracking their expenses and they want to grow their businesses, it's not that easy to. You can look at your bank account, you know what your income is and what you're spending, but what are some of the most important metrics a business can consider when they're trying to track their finances?
So I think we're right to start from a place of tracking. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people end up missing is that if you're not tracking information, if you don't have good info coming in, it's really hard to determine what metrics you need to be tracking going out. But a couple that I think are really important that you should be thinking about. One, or the first one, is not necessarily a metric, but a trend. You really want to look at your revenue trends. I think when we think of seasonal businesses, a lot of people kind of assume that that's not them, that I am not a Christmas company or a tax company. And so I make sales year round. But once you start tracking what's coming in, you may notice that, yeah, I can make sales year round, but I tend to, my income tends to dip in the summer and go up in the winter or vice versa. And so you want to track that because it's really going to help you prepare to do all of the things that you do for the rest of the year once you have a sense of how much is going to be coming in throughout the year. The next thing I would say to look at is months cash on hand. This was really important, especially with the pandemic, that you want to have an assessment of if I spend this much per month on average on expenses, how many months could I go if no income was coming in? And that's going to be between your investments, your savings account, and your checking account. If everything crashed, like it did for some people last year, how long could you go on without any income? Because that'll give you a baseline so that if you're not earning as much as you had expected, you still have enough to kind of cover you for a little while. And then the last metric that I would bring up is operating profit margin. And it sounds very fancy, but it's really your percentage of revenue that profit makes up. And in that case, you want to see, all right, so I made all of this money. How much did I actually end up having as profit once all of my expenses went out? And that's going to give you a sense of, hey, am I pricing correctly, right? Like, am I selling enough to cover all of the expenses that I have? And then second, is this the phase where I'm trying to make a profit? I think a lot of people get caught up in being profitable, which is always a benefit, but you may be in a growth phase where you don't really expect to make a lot of profit as long as you can cover everything. And so your operating profit margin target can really be an indicator based on where your business is in the moment.
I think that Susie Orman, when she talks about personal finances, says something like have like 6 to 8 months of living expenses on hand and savings. What is your number for businesses?
Yeah, so before the pandemic, we usually were trying to keep people at least between 3 and 6 months. Now we're generally recommending that people have between 6 and 12 months, especially as people have had to pivot and the economy has not moved in the direction that some of us were expecting. As much as you can put to the side to be able to hold yourself down if something happens, the better. Also know that all of this doesn't have to live in a savings account. You can obviously talk to your financial planner or somebody that can assist with where this money should live, but it may be that you want to have 6 months in a savings account and 6 months in investments that's growing because you don't need it as liquid. But I would say at least a 6-month minimum is the target that you want to shoot for to start.
Yeah, I guess rainy day, saving for a rainy day really took on a whole new meaning during the pandemic. So you work with a lot of small business owners, and just what do you see like the mistakes people make when they're trying to build a financial plan?
The first mistake is, I think some business owners treat their businesses like a side business or a hobby. And so they're not doing all of the things that they need to have valuable information that they can actually use to make their financial plan. So what do I mean by that? commingling funds. So not separating their business income and expenses from their personal and really driving that all through their personal account. Now, a lot of times that happens because at the very beginning, a business can't sustain itself. And so you're kind of in this place where I'm the one that's supporting the business. I'm the one that's giving it money to, do things. It's all going through my account. But you really want to make sure that you have a separate account set up for that. Depending on your business entity type, it may be required by your state or by federal law. But the other thing is it really shows you whether your business is growing and doing the things that you expect it to. And that's hard to see when you have a W-2 job or a spouse or another business that may be bringing money into the account that is not the business holding its end of the bargain. The other thing is not tracking income and expenses. This is probably the pitfall that I see most often. And it's a way, one, to get a handle on how your business is doing, but two, to prepare for taxes and how you strategically plan for that throughout the year. A lot of people will just kind of go head first into doing the business and then not track it. They're kind of looking at their bank account and saying, oh, there's still money in there, or I think that I have this bill coming up and there's enough to cover that. But there really isn't any idea of how much am I spending and where. Are there places that I should cut? I mean, when you think about your personal finances and, subscriptions that are coming up constantly, the same thing can happen in your business where you're paying for software that you're not necessarily using or spending more on contractors than you can afford to. And so not tracking that information makes it really difficult to make a plan for the future. And it means that many small business owners kind of come from a place of their gut. They're like, I think I'm probably going to make around this much. It's probably going to cost me around this much, but no historical data to really see whether that's accurate. And then I would say the last thing is just not setting up their businesses properly, whether that's the business entity type, getting your EIN from the IRS, like making sure the legal structure is in order, because it can really affect the financial plan, what you're able to do and not able to do, everything from paying yourself to paying others. And if you don't have that foundation, that legal foundation in place, it makes it really difficult to advise on what you should do from the accounting space.
If you're a brand new business like Omayya's was in 2020, what are just like those first steps? Or actually, you know what, even if you're not a new business, but you're a business who's doing what you just said, which is not really being quite formal enough about managing your accounting, like what's a first step to just start to really get a financial plan going that you're going to be able to follow, but also that's adaptable?
Yeah, so I would say the first two kind of major steps are get a business bank account so that you can see everything separately. You can see exactly what the business is doing. You can see whether the business is making money or whether it's overspending. And then second, that business bank account you're going to use to sign up for an accounting system. A lot of people will start with a spreadsheet or with their bank statements. And an accounting system not only allows you to track what's coming in and out, so it makes it easier for you to know kind of what the business is doing, but a lot of them will also have a built-in option for you to do budgeting or for you to kind of review some future idea of, if I've done this much year to date, this is maybe what I can plan to do for the last quarter of the year. It also allows you to potentially do some scenario planning, right? So you can look and say, what if I hit the high end of my expectation for next quarter? And what if I hit the low end? Those are the very first steps that I would say, because again, I think a lot of people want to jump into, I just want to start looking at the future and how much I can make and how much I can expect to spend. But you have to be realistic. You don't want to tell yourself, I can make $1 million this year if year to date you've only made, say, 100,000. It's possible, but you need to have a plan in place. And it's hard to do that without some historical data. And then I would say, kind of as a side note to doing that, is to really be on top of managing where your business is headed by setting some type of goals. Now, you want to make them as attainable as you can, but also don't make them too far in the future. Jordan talked about this with marketing, but in finance, you want to have short-term and long-term goals. And I would love for people to start with the short-term. What do I hope to do in this next month? Because that's really what prepares you to make accurate goals for the rest of the year.
That's great. So I'm going to go to Omayya now and ask, when you guys started your business, how did you first come up? Like, what was your initial financial plan? Were you very formal about it, or were you thinking, this is like a thing that's not going to last, so we're not going to really worry about it?
Yeah, I'd say we were like, whatever, this is a side thing. Well, this might not go anywhere, so I don't want to waste too much time being formal. But I wish I had someone like Keila next to me when it started, because yeah, it was an Excel sheet when we started. So I tracked as best I could, and I was like, we will make money this month, maybe. But once and I'm not giving any advice, but about 3 months in, we start to realize this is going to go somewhere, and that's when we start consulting the proper people and the accountants, and open a business account, set up LLC, and all that. I wish I had done it earlier because it was a headache to go back and try to track your costs. So yeah, it was informal and then became formal quickly.
Yeah, yeah. I think that happens to a lot of people. Barbara, as you grow, and how do you think about your finances in terms of making a decision about whether to grow and expand?
It's a great question, and similar to what Keila and Omayya said too. For us, it's making sure that we have a game plan of growth. We have a business plan, and we don't just put it on a shelf and revisit it every 12 months. We look at it often, monthly, quarterly. We look at the top line and the bottom line, and we look at realistic goals and a timeline attached to those. Most importantly, I think what's been a key for us is our advisors, our legal team, that is external counsel, and our CFO and our CPA, we're all on the same page. So if we're going to grow by organic, by decreasing overhead, decreasing our costs, renegotiating our vendor contracts for operational or other types of infrastructure or capital expenditures, our legal team needs to understand where we're going financially too. We're all all oars are in the water in the same time period. And then I would also say, what we call the chessboard moves, what does that look like short term, but also long term? So we have that long-term growth strategy. And then what are those stepping stones, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 have to be? We acquired our company just almost 4 years ago. And, so far so good. Even through a global pandemic, we've grown cautiously, but not losing our eye off the long-term goal in the process.
Great. Omayya, how about I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing that all the musicians that you employ are like essentially contract, not full-time employees. How are you like keeping overhead down as you grow this?
Well, yeah, they're all contractors, and we have had a couple full-time musicians at a time where we were starting to not be able to take on enough orders. So we had the full-time musicians on board so they could pick up whatever's left over to do those songs for people. But in general, they're all contractors, and we pay us, like specifically to us, we pay the artist after they complete the song submitted for approval. Then we pay the artist. So that for us is it keeps overhead kind of low there. Really, what I try to do is analyze every month. I try to analyze what overhead do I have that costs too much, and it's bringing our bottom line down. So I just go over those numbers, and I'm paying this person for services every month. It's about $800 a month, but I think I can do this in a better way, or in-house, or something that's effective but also cost effective. And I basically take a look at it monthly and see what we can bring down from overhead.
Thank you. Barbara, can you talk a little bit about when you're making the decision, like a big financial decision to make an investment, like bringing on someone as a full-time employee, maybe it's your first or maybe it's not, or investing in a new piece of equipment or a building, or just how do you think about the financial I guess, how do you find like financial comfort in knowing whether you can afford those things or not, and whether they're going to bring you the return on the investment that you hope?
It's a great question. So we sit as a team. We sit as an ownership team. We will bring in our CFO. At times, we'll bring in one or two other senior members of our team, and we will assess: is it a head count? Is it needed and necessary today, or is it an investment for what growth will be coming down the pike? We look at a couple of options. Is it a return on investment, and what does that look like? Is that just a financial investment? Is it a cultural investment for that headcount? What does that person bring to the table internally and then externally for our clients or the industries we represent? Is it a return on business objective? Is it bringing in somebody who has that category expertise for new clients that we want to bring on? Geographically, is that geographic market and the headcount needed and required in order to grow in that market? And we sit there and we weigh the pros and the cons. We rack and stack the value propositions. And we make that decision, again, cross-functionally, and everyone has a voice. And we all make that decision together. And I think it's made us stronger because we really look at things wide and deep before decisions are made. We also look at the if-then scenarios. If we do this and it's a financial implication, then what would we have to look and reassess maybe from other costs? Where else can we cut cost because this expenditure far outweighs the value that we may be getting somewhere else in the company? And for us, it's Omayya said, we're doing that every month. I mean, sometimes weekly. You have to make those decisions. The pandemic hits, everyone's from home. Yeah, we're not spending paper and copy toner because no one's at the office printing, but now we have home offices to fix, and cybersecurity that's on the next level, which is a cost implication. So it's a very real time, and it's ever changing.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. We're going to go to the audience Q&A in a second, but we are going to first do our second poll. So audience, the question is, what is your number one financial goal in the next 6 months? We have hire an employee, make a major capital investment, boost marketing efforts, build up reserves, and launch a new product. So building up reserves, Keila, you probably scared everybody, so that's their answer now.
I'm okay with that.
Launch a new product. Yeah, that's interesting. I know hiring is an issue, so I'm not surprised that hiring an employee is ranking second, close to first, because I know that's in first because I know that's an issue for everyone. Thank you to the audience for voting. We're going to go to the Q&A now, so everyone just bear with me while I shift gears. Let me see. I think I'm going to ask this question first of Omayya, but I may ask the others. How much can a business experiment with realistically is the question. Did you set your price from the beginning and keep it the same?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, when we started it, it was just me and my wife making the songs ourselves. So we didn't really understand the value that we brought. So we were setting our prices way too low and spending too much time working, because we ended up working 24 hours a day, staying up into the night, and then going to our regular jobs because we were getting so many orders because of our prices were very low. So for what we did basically is, we set our price and then we judged the demand based on that price, and we could increase our price to a certain point to where we felt like it was reasonable for the high quality product we brought, and it made sense in the market.
Barbara, kind of a similar question, but because your company is providing a different kind of service. This person is saying, how do you truly estimate the cost of launching a new product? But I would actually broaden that, especially for someone like you who's offering a service that you may like Omayya's service is pretty finite, right? You're getting a song, so you know from the beginning what the service he's providing is. For you, I imagine the service you're providing can evolve based on the client's continuing needs and as things change. So how do you estimate your price going in knowing that things may evolve?
Sure, client needs change all the time. What they need and what they want are two different things, and as long as the marketing efforts that they desire, support their overall sales function, great. We have to determine, though, is what they need. Can we do it in house with our current team? Do we have the expertise to go find it externally with a partner or a third party? Or is it something that we have to have the courage to just say, you know what, that's not in our wheelhouse, but let me make the introductions, and here's where you need to go to get that expertise. Not everything should be taken on. And if it's not in your wheelhouse or your expertise, there's a lot of courage that needs to be had to say no, because you don't want to set yourself or your client up, for anything less than achieving or overachieving success rate. So it's trying to, for us, when those opportunities arise, we look at, prices are fluid, fees are fluid, just like Omayya said. You have to continuously be flexible, but you also have to know as a business owner when to say no. It may be the greatest opportunity, but you sometimes just have to pass for a lot of different reasons. And knowing how, what are those filters, right? What are those guardrails to say yes or no to a customer or a client or a project? Sometimes can be a benchmark for the success of your company. And those types of decisions are made often. Getting to that courage, that state of yes, we're going to take it on, and here's how we're going to do it, or no, we have to pass.
Yeah, that's good advice. Keila, I have this one for you. And I really like this question because I know so many people who have been in this situation. The person says, when thinking of hiring staff that don't directly impact the bottom line, but who are needed on the team, how do you perform a cost benefit analysis?
So I think the first thing to think about is, to some extent, everybody has a direct effect on the bottom line. So yeah, maybe they're not your marketing person where you can do a direct ROI, but they are likely freeing up time for you to be able to do other things. They're allowing things to happen more efficiently, and they may be improving your service. And so one of the things that I would think about, especially when you're thinking about benefits, is one, does it allow you to offer a better product or service to your client? Because that could directly impact pricing, right? If you have the bandwidth to take more calls or to produce more items because this person is taking something off of your plate, they're actually allowing you potentially to charge more for that, because now they've got a couple of people that they can talk to and not just you. The other thing that I would think about is how is your bandwidth increased? So how many more people can you serve as a result, even if they're not the direct person? So one of the things that I often think about with service providers is that you have to be in front of the client. You've got to talk to them on the phone. You've got to set up meetings. And if you're doing that and this kind of X job that's over here that somebody else is going to take for you, that limits how many clients you can take on for a particular service. And so thinking about how does this expand your capacity to take on more speaking engagements, to have more meetings, to do more things for your clients. And then I would say the last thing is thinking about them as a direct impact, to say, if I hire them, what does the business get to do? What is the business able to take on? What am I able to take on as the business owner? What are other team members able to add to the pot because they're not doing this job that someone else is now taking for them? And then use that as a baseline to determine whether or not what they're improving upon, financial or not at first, really makes the business better. And then how can we make strategic financial decisions based on that change?
That's very good advice. I have a second question for you, but I really like this question. So I'm going to ask you and then everyone else. So you guys start thinking of your answers. So I think what this person is saying is they were selling a service that either there was a lot of demand for and there no longer is demand for it, or just for whatever reason, that service was selling and now it's not. So they're in a situation where they kind of have to reinvent themselves and come up with a new service to sell. So starting with you, Keila, like how do you advise people to think about when it's time to start adding new products and services and phasing out other ones?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is, and we go back to tracking because the accountant is always going to want to track stuff. But the first thing I would say is look at your data. Sometimes people will say, I just need to pivot the whole business because this thing isn't selling anymore. And we may look at the data and say, actually, product A or service A is not selling anymore, but service B is doing fantastic. And you've had that as a back pocket offer that you were only offering to some people. What if that came to the forefront as the main thing that you were offering to people? So first, look within the house and see, are there rooms that I can be taking better advantage of, products that I can kind of improve and give more value to my clients or serve them better if I just move that up in the list. And then the second thing I would say is if a product or service is not selling well, try to get a sense either from feedback or from anecdotal experience or just from what you've learned from your team or clients. What didn't they like? Is it a pricing situation? And if it is there a way for you to offer a potentially similar service at not the same price? So maybe you used to get to talk to me every month, and now if we're going to offer this at a lower price, I'll send you a pre-recorded video every month or something like that. How can you potentially make a product or service that lives within the same wheelhouse of what's not doing well, that meets the needs or concerns of people that were leaving it? That also gives you a space to say, is it that the service wasn't meeting what they thought they were going to get? And in that rate, it may not be a pivoting of the whole business, but maybe just an amplifying of different products or parts of the service that were working really well for you, but as a whole, the client wasn't getting what they expected.
Great, thank you. We're almost out of time, so very quickly, Barbara, do you have any thoughts to add to that?
No, I agree with what Keila said, and I would add to that, once you assess that go-to-market strategy or those product development opportunities, really reassess, do you have the right people in the right seats within the company to actually execute on the new business strategy or the new product strategy? So it's dual, it's a two-prong approach, maybe even a three-prong approach to say, okay, then what are the financial implications of all of those elements with product assessment, service assessment, and then your human headcount? Do you have the right people in the right seat to actually execute against that new pivot game plan?
Great, thank you. That's actually going to be the last word. That's all we have time for today. Thank you to all three of you for joining us. And thank you to our event partner, Spectrum Reach, and our supporting sponsors, ADP, FedEx, MetLife, Square, and Staples Connect for helping us bring you this program today. Now, this is the last co-roadmap for rebuilding before the big week for small business, which we are hosting next month. We hope you will join us. That's on October 20th, 20th, and 21st. It's a 2-day virtual program, so everybody can attend. And we will have lots of relevant content for you to run your business, but also a lot of small group workshops, which are really, really valuable. We also will have the Dream Big Awards program, which is our signature capstone event, which I know sounds very fancy. And we'll be awarding the Small Business of the Year $25,000. So we want you to be there to see that as well. You will get a registration link for the big week in the email after this event. In the meantime, please check out Co, the publication I run for the U.S. Chamber. And we have Co content curated for you, which is coming to you in your inbox and also on the screen. And let us know how we did today by taking our audience survey on the right-hand side of the screen. Thank you all so much. And together we will recover and rebuild. See everyone soon. Thanks. Bye, everyone.